We got Trevor Thomas in the building, someone that just blew a PTBI record for going viral last month and smashing a record month for his business. Now, Trevor came to us last year, I believe it was July, correct? Like June or July. It was like it was in the summer. So it was about a year ago exactly. And I remember you were down bad and you put your last dollar into joining PTBI and it was like this had to work. I remember not to get, not to put you on blast here, but I'm going to put you on blast. I remember a call maybe about 2 or 3 weeks into the program, maybe a little bit longer, maybe 6 weeks or something like that. You were just getting started and you're like, dude, I don't know what to do. I'm stressed out. People aren't closing. I'm doing what you're telling me to do. And I told you, I'm like, dude, just shut up and keep doing the work. And here we are a year later. Your page went viral. You have more leads than you can work with. You're about to hire an AC, and you had to stop taking on clients because your business is blowing up so much. So, dude, welcome. I'm excited to dive into everything. Why don't you just go ahead and tell people, who you are, where you're from, and we'll get into it.
Yeah, I'm Trevor Thomas. As you said, I've been in the program, I think, for a year, whatever it's been. Been coaching for a long time. Moved to the online space, I want to say 4 years ago. Grew up in LA, moved to San Diego. Um, and yeah, it's just been trying to figure it out this whole time. Finally, kind of hit a stride. And yeah, that phone call, it rings in my head every day. So it's awesome. I mean, it's incredible what's changed since then.
I love it, man. Let's start from the beginning, man. So you grew up in LA. What was it like back then? Like, were you always into fitness? Did you go to college and then get into fitness? Like, how did you get into fitness and then decide that fitness coaching is what you wanted to do?
Yeah, so always been into fitness. I like grew up in a gym basically. I was always involved and working out in some facet, mainly for football. High school ended, went to college at NAU. College was not for me. I dropped out after a year, came back, and just picked up coaching as kind of this side gig. I was like, oh, this would be good to do for the time being. Actually, just told the story to someone. I really fell in love with the first client. The
Mhm.
first client was someone I worked with. They lost 20 pounds. They said I changed their life. And I think from that moment on, like I chased that high
Mhm.
of like helping that just putting someone in a totally different field that they've never been in before and just trying to change lives as much as I can. So kind of that addiction built. And, moved to San Diego 4 years ago. Um, Tried to start my business in COVID, which was the worst idea, but figured it out, got online, found that online was kind of my love because I could work with people everywhere. And San Diego is very competitive with in person coaching. So built it from there. And I already forgot the question. So hopefully
Yeah.
that
No, I mean that brings us up to speed, man.
yeah.
So what were you doing in between, when you dropped out of college and moved down to San Diego? Were you kind of just like kicking around? Were you trying out different businesses? Were you trying to get into fitness coaching? What happened there?
I was lost as hell. Like I was bartending. I was being a coach, but my job was literally open the gym at 4:30 in the morning, get off, go to the bar, work until 2 in the morning, and
Damn.
basically I was just sleeping in the middle of the day, and it was horrible. Like I was just so lost. I felt like a failure because I dropped out of college. Like I had lots of other things going on where I just didn't know where to turn. But
Mhm.
I ended up going with what felt good.
Mhm.
And yeah, it wasn't an easy road by any means.
And did you start with in-person training? Is that where you started?
Yeah, I started at this gym called Afterburn Fitness.
Okay. And what was
They,
okay.
good.
I was gonna say, what was the experience like as an in-person trainer?
Um, it was good. I think my initial kind of sales skills came from there because they really did push. Like I sold all my own clients. It was very cutthroat. People would really just like I remember other trainers physically stepping in front of me to talk to someone just to get a sale in front of me.
Wow.
I think that really kind of put an edge on me to later build my own business. But yeah, I mean, it was in person for about I want to say 4 years, 3 or 4 years.
Wow, that's
Uh,
a long time.
yeah, yeah. It felt like 1 year. Like I really look back on it, I was like, I did nothing but work and like go to raves for
Yeah.
for 4 years.
Yeah. Well, dude, I'm curious to ask you because a lot of people who want to get into the online space know they want to get in the online space, but they decide that I want to go in person first and foremost so that I can get experience to then translate or get clients to then come over to my online business. I always tell people that like your in-person business isn't going to transfer into your online business. When you start online, you're still going to be starting from scratch, right? So I'm curious as to what your experience was. Did online or going in person before going online help? Did it give you any sort of edge? Like, did it have any sort of carryover into online coaching? What was that like?
I think I was lucky and I was at a good gym that taught me skills. Um, Other than just being a coach. I think you put up a post recently about commercial gyms. Like, I would never really suggest going the commercial gym route. I think I got really warm to dealing with people, but definitely when I switched the online space, it was like starting over. You have to learn so many different skills in different ways. It's the same skills in theory, but you have to translate them through a computer or learn how to communicate in ways that just aren't physical. And that took me a while to figure out. But I do think there's some value in having at least a little in-person training, even if it is like friends or doing some sort of your own practice. I think is very good to at least learn the basic operation within that so it can translate to some degree.
Love it. Love it. Um, okay, let's talk about your online business, man. When did you decide to go online? How did you know that going online was the route? And what was it like those first few months, as you were getting started?
Yeah, I mean, COVID forced me to try online. It didn't go great. I had a couple clients. Um, I think, I mean, it's funny. I remember seeing you when you lived in San Diego and seeing what you and your group were doing, and it interests me, but I was stubborn and wanted to figure things out on my own. But I took just kind of bits and pieces of other people. I think it was pretty damn new around that time, but
Mhm.
I mean, I just saw the value in being able to handle a lot more clients for less time and energy. I mean, I remember when I was working at a gym, when I eventually quit the bar job, I was at the gym all day. Like, I remember sleeping in the conference room for like a nap just to get some time to rest. And it was miserable. And I look back to how much I was making at that point for that much energy, for that much time, just grinding. It didn't make sense. So once I started doing the math on, okay, I can just work from home, I can have a higher quality of life, I can travel, I can do whatever and make double, triple, quadruple what I was making then, it was kind of a no brainer for me.
Yeah, I love it. Where was it hard getting started?
Yeah, it's very hard, especially not knowing what to do. I think a lot of guessing was tough. I mean, at the time, I didn't have Trainerize. I was just writing up PDFs and explaining workouts and words, and it was terrible. But as it went, it got easier. I mean, it's just like you got to practice to get it better.
I love it, man. So what finally got you to the point to where you were trying it on your own, you had all this experience, but you couldn't figure out how to get traction online to the moment where you're like, okay, I'm gonna join PTBI, I'm gonna do this. What brought you to that point?
It's you texting me like I think you texted me like every 2 months. You're like, "What's up?" Just like, "Hey, dude, still not in." Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, "No, I can't do this." And then I think eventually I went to you because I was just so down. Like, I was so down bad. I always tell the story. I was eating nothing but frozen chicken, rice, and broccoli for like every meal because I could not afford anything more. I was spending more money on my dog than I was on,
Wow.
and everything else was going into rent. So I was just trying to stay afloat by any means possible. I had a very small amount of savings. I don't even remember what it came from. I somehow got this money. I don't know, but I had like $1,000, and I
Mhm.
was like, I need to do something. So your thousands of messages finally got through to me, and I was like, all right, it's time. Like, I'm just gonna go all in. I'm gonna give this every bit of my energy, and we'll see what happens.
I love it, man. I know things were pretty tight. You went in on your last dollar, and so obviously stress is high. What kept you from quitting when you had pretty much you give everything you got, you haven't gotten anything back in return, you're stressed out, but you didn't give up. What kept you from quitting?
fear and anxiety. Like I always say, there's a good level of anxiety. There is a point of anxiety when you wake up in the morning and you're like, I have no money in my account. I have to go make a sale. That will get you to kick ass. Like I think if you use that in the right way, I mean, also the fact I have this written back here. Everything negative, pressure, challenges is all an opportunity to rise. That's Kobe Bryant. That's something that quote has always been in my head. And I just think pressure has always been something that's been good for me. I even found after I had my best month last time, I had a 12K month. You gave me a plaque. I tanked after that because the pressure wasn't there, and that's
Mm.
something I'm getting better at. But I think pressure is good if you handle it. Take the fire, take that darkness that you sit in, and let it push you, opposed to sitting in the hole and being like, "All right, I'm just going to let this take over."
Yeah. I'm the same way, man. I have a really good support group to where whenever I feel the pressure, I can reach out. And their advice is always like, what other choice do you have? Like, what other choice do you have than to keep going? It's actually faster and better to keep going than it is to just completely detour and take a different direction. So yeah, I've been in that pocket many times myself. But what was the thing that got you to your first 12K month? Because you were struggling for quite some time, you couldn't crack it. And then you joined a year ago around this time, so like June, July, and then by October you had hit a 12K month. So what did that for you in that period?
Well, I mean, credit to PTBI. I mean, you, Megan, like just showing up to every call, showing up to the sales meetings, especially. And
Mm.
just, I remember you said, you're like, you should be in every single sales training we have. And I showed up to everyone. I refined, I just sharpened the knife over and over and over. And that helped with the inevitable. My content was getting there. And I
Mm.
had a first big hit on TikTok and I got like 40,000 followers on there, and that kind of pushed everything along. So as the skills got better, like the content kind of pushed on that. So as these waves of people that followed me came in, I was just drilling DMs like every single day. I was running till I my DMs got blocked, and it
Yeah.
was I would try to send over 100 DMs a day. 99% of them didn't even get read. But I was so hell bent on being like, I don't care if it's cold, warm, whatever. I'm just going to get volume. Obviously, that system needed to be refined a little bit, but the effort was really in the DMs that changed everything for me.
I love it. I love it. And then what was your content strategy that allowed you to blow up? Because I mean, I'll give you credit where credit's due, dude. You have absolutely exploded. I think you got a video that did what, like 15 million views. You went from 15, like 10, 15,000 to almost what, 100,000 close to now. I have people literally messaging me being like, what is he doing? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. So what did it for you, man?
Yeah, I mean, I've taken a lot of time to think about that, and I think I'm lucky, or at least it's worked how I wanted to, in the sense of it wasn't a one-off video that worked. It
Mhm.
was a video that I had refined the formula over and over and over again. To, I mean, if you look back at my old videos, I'm changing location. It's all in my apartment, which is
Mhm.
crazy. Which is, I remember Megan telling me, she's like, "This is not going to work. You got to get outside of your apartment." And I just ended up developing studios within my apartment. This angles in my shitty little kitchen that I upgraded more and more and more. Getting a good mic, lighting, things like that. That refined, and then honestly, as cheesy as it sounds, I was being myself. Like I
Mhm.
think the biggest problem that I see in a lot of people's content is they're doing what every single person is doing. I get it. There's trends, things like that. That works to some degree. But at the end of the day, I think the reason why my sales have been great and the reason why my content has been great is because they're both me. They're both very much over exaggerated versions of me. So I get to get into these sales calls where people are incredibly warm. They like my personality. And that has turned into content working too. And I truly think it's a refining process of your content. If something works, if something gets 3,000 views, refine that. If something gets a little bit more than that, keep refining. And it becomes this kind of equation that I've been just kind of working through and getting through. But I look at everything from lighting to positioning to how, I mean, I watch my videos and go, got bored right there, cut.
Yeah.
It's the editing aspect and just I mean, I watch my videos like I'm someone else. And I think that's really what's made the difference here and like upgrading constantly.
Yeah, dude, I tell people that all the time. I'm like, dude, you can't be afraid to listen to your own voice. You
Mhm.
can't be afraid to watch yourself speak. Like you have to watch your own content and ask yourself, would you be entertained by this or would you find this valuable? And a lot of people I feel like are entitled because they think that just because they're posting content, they're entitled to leads and clients. It's like, no, you got to actually be good at this if you want to stand out. So what were some examples of like, key things that because I've seen your content and I know that the video that went viral wasn't a one-off video because I had seen that video many different variations weeks before. It wasn't the first time I've seen it. So what were some of the things that you're like, okay, I know that if I do this and I do this and I do this, that the video would do well.
Well, for a while, I was making videos that I thought were cool. Like I was making videos that had music and it was like quick cut and like, everything was really visually and I'm a big fan of music. So everything was like what I wanted. I realized the more I talked, it did better. And then I
Hmm.
realized also if I was just talking, no music, if all the cuts were based around me talking, people enjoyed that more. And the more little interjections, because I used to think it was cut and dry, like, okay, get to the point, get the recipe through, completion time is important, but I was almost too focused on that. When I realized it's the more talking, the more entertaining, the more kind of jokey, not so serious, and like being myself was what pushed that the most. But I think for real, it was editing, trying it different ways, realizing that people actually do want to hear me talk as much as I actually hate doing that. I
Yeah.
do enjoy not talking, but it's getting the outcome of these like recipe videos are a byproduct. At
Mhm.
the end of the day, it's entertainment, and I think that's what goes for the following. And then my talking head stuff is where I can really get the information across, get valuable things sent to people so that they go, oh, wow, he knows actually what he's talking to, other than saying fucking shit quite a bit. So,
Yeah, dude. And that actually leads into the next question that I have for you is what is your conversion process? Because there's so many people that can go viral, but they all get the wrong audience or they don't know how to convert. So it sounds like you have a good balance of like viral video, also informational value video. And how do you monetize this traffic? Like, what's your strategy there?
yeah, I mean, when I was lower following, and I still think this is a great strategy, I treated every single new follower like a warm lead. I messaged every single person that followed me. And at the very least, if they had a coach already, if they were a coach, if they whatever, I would at least leave a good impression so
Mhm.
that they would go and continue to watch my content and feel like they have a connection with me. Um, from that, I mean, as it exploded, there was no way to keep up with that. But I started going into all my likes. And then that's another thing. I think it's a double warm lead if they're liking your stuff, if they're interacting. So, really just going after the people that were involved in the most minute things. So, yes, likes, but also putting up polls, putting up multiple polls to see if they go through all of them. Anyone that's interacting to the biggest extent are the ones that really, truly, truly like you, especially if they're asking questions too. Like, honestly, I think the story polls, the story question things are huge because it just means they actually give a shit and they want to see you answer their question. But yeah, I mean, I think volume is still key to me. Like putting out a ton of messages. I still don't have a VA. I'm gonna have one soon, but um, I think everyone needs to get in the rhythm of being like, I'm gonna send out so many messages until I absolutely can. And it's hard work. It's just I think that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, no, I mean, you definitely don't shy away from the work. A lot of people say they want to start an online business. They want all the success, they want all the, income, they want the freedom, but they're not willing to do the work. And it's a trade-off that they're not willing to, put in. But you obviously got backed into a corner and had no choice but to make it work. And now you're here reaping the fruits. So, what's it feel like to be on the other side? You hit nearly a 20K month, which is freaking insane. That's what software engineers make out of college if they get lucky. And you're here, college dropout bartender, fucking making 20 grand a month in San Diego. So, what's it feel like, man?
It feels great. I mean, I think back a lot. As of recently, I've done nothing but think back, and I think back to where I was, who I was, how much I've changed, and what truly makes me happy. And I realized that doing this, being successful, money aside, like finally making it, finally getting to a point where I'm not having to think about my bills. I'm not having to pick and choose groceries, whatever. It just feels good. And I think also, as a kid, I always wanted to run my own business. Like I always wanted to make a product. I always want to do something. And it just feels like it's so much fulfillment for who I was and who I'm becoming. And I just feel great with that. But the constant thing I wake up with now is don't you dare get complacent. Don't you
Yeah.
dare stop. Like I've done it before. Like I said, after a 12K month, I slowed down and now the baseline is so much higher. The baseline is 15K, and now I just want that to keep going higher because I know what I want. Every day I wake up and think about what I want, and I want to get there faster than even I expect. So pedal to the floor. I'm just ready to roll.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, what's next for you, man? What's on the horizon?
It's on the horizon. I mean, assistant coach, just hiring. I mean, really, that's what I want to delegate. I want to hire. I want to make sure that we are building as much as a company. I want to do a rebrand. I want to have a singular name. I just want to make this thing huge. And then once it's as big as it possibly can be, move on to other projects and just constantly be creating. I'm addicted to creating. I love this job at the end of the day. So I'm going to take it to the absolute furthest.
I love it, dude. I love it. Where can people give you a follow online? Where can they find you?
At 2T Fitness, letter two, letter T Fitness. Yeah, I think that's on everything. So go check it out.
All right, man. Any last words? Any words of advice for people watching this that are thinking about getting into online coaching and they're on their last dollar, no other choice. What's the words of advice?
There's something I've always said, and it's very simple. And I say this to my clients all the time: keep pushing. I say it to myself all the time when I'm laying in bed, literally crying to myself years ago,
Mhm.
not knowing what I'm going to do. All I kept saying to myself was keep pushing. And I think if you could take that and just think every day, one foot in front of the other, do it, do it, do it, you're gonna get there. As long as you don't stop, you only fail if you quit.
I love it. Trevor, thank you so much for your time, man.
Thank you,
Peace.
brother. Appreciate it.